Hey guys, Tyler here. Coming in tonight, we got a great interview with you tonight. He is now with the UFC, former with Bellator analyst. He's on UFC on Fox. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He competed in mixed martial arts. Mr. Jimmy Smith, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good, man. Doing fantastic. Enjoying the holiday.
Yeah, happy Memorial Day, all you guys, everybody who served and sacrificed for our freedoms in this country. So I want to give a shout out for that. So, Jimmy, the first question I kind of ask everybody with my interviews is kind of a little bit of background about yourself. Where are you from? What got you into martial arts in general? Kind of the whole backstory.
Well, I'm a Virgo, and no, I'm kidding. I started out wrestling, man. In high school, I was a wrestler, and what happened was I went to UCLA, and they didn't have a wrestling team. They just had a wrestling club, and I was up there one day with the wrestling club, wrestling with some guys, and this jiu-jitsu coach came in, and he said, "Hey, man, you should come to my jiu-jitsu class tonight and check it out." And I didn't know what he was talking about. He's just like 6 o'clock in this room, and I went in there and tried it out for the first time. I absolutely loved it. And so I started doing jiu-jitsu, and then I was driving through Huntington Beach looking for a school to do jiu-jitsu, and I lived in Long Beach at the time. And I saw a sign that said jiu-jitsu. I pulled over, and it turned out to be what became Team Punishment, Tito Ortiz's team and everything. So that's where I started out, man, training in Huntington Beach, got into MMA, and had 7 pro fights, and then did Fight Quest for Discovery Channel and got into TV work, and that led me here.
Yeah, no, I was going to get into Fight Quest here in a bit, and so your record, I thought, so is it 5-1 in mixed martial arts, or
it's 6-1? There's one that isn't on there from back in the day, but yeah, 6-1, man.
Okay, so and you fought Jason Chambers, correct?
Yeah, that was my last professional.
Yeah, analyst versus analyst type deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were mentioning wrestling. And I've heard, for instance, Joe Rogan, and I know you're recently on his podcast, talks about wrestling being one of the best bases you can have for mixed martial arts. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, everybody talks about the ability to decide where the fight goes, and that's huge, but it's the pacing and the training are just absolute murder. So, the guys that get into that, that get into wrestling and have been through, a D1 program, a strong D2 program, something like that, their work ethic is incredible. I mean, they're just used to murderous workouts. They're used to going really hard, and they're used to, the kind of environment that does well in MMA. I mean, that competitive environment, they're used to it.
Yeah, we had Ed Ruth and Kyle Crutchmer on here this last week, and I was discussing with them about how the kind of strength a D1 wrestler has and the endurance, and it's out of this world. I mean, it's freakish strength.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and it's they had a thing before the NCAAs a few years ago where they asked these wrestlers like when you started and when you knew it's what you wanted to do, and they were sitting there going like, "Oh, I was like 6." I was 6 when I really started taking it seriously, and had my first national title. I was 9. Like, they start so young and they work so hard, and at the end, there's no real financial reward. You can't exactly go pro and make millions, so. That's why they go into MMA so effectively.
Yeah. Now, Fight Quest, what was that like?
Oh my God, it was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was. What's hard for people to understand is we kind of got dropped into the country. We were in country a total of, I want to say 13 days, 12, 13 days. 5 of that was actual training and everything on the show, and it was just so hard because you're trying to adjust to the climate and the time change and the food, and you're going through this brutal training that you would never go through in a million years right before a fight, and then at the end you fought. So it was like a whirlwind kind of experience, and it was great. It was my first exposure to TV. It was my first gig, and I really had a great time and great memories there, but it was physically, man, it was rough.
Now, what was the hardest art that you had to compete in?
Man, that's a tough one. The hardest art I had to compete in, the hardest one, because of the circumstances I was in, Krav Maga was tough because I was living on a military base. I mean, I literally lived in, showered in, lived like a soldier for, the entire week that I was training. And so I was taking on, 6, 7 guys at a time and doing this brutal stuff, running with guns and packs. And the training itself was just around it was really, really brutal. And then, we went through the fight stuff, and it was just like, rather than having one thing to contend with, you had to contend with the whole lifestyle I was in. And so that was was a really challenging episode, man.
Now, let's say they came to you and said, Jimmy, we want to do Fight Quest 2. Would you do it again?
Never in a I am not as young as I was on the first Fight Quest, man. So
it would have to be a hefty contract.
What's up?
It would have to be a hefty contract.
Yeah. It would, no, even that, I mean, but it's a full commitment doing something like Fight Quest. I couldn't just go, I'll do it for the money. And I mean, it would show in the show. Like, it would just, I just wouldn't be, where I was when I first did it. So if you were doing it for the money, it just wouldn't end up the same. When they're just fighting for the money, they don't fight like they do when they really want something. Yeah. And so, similar kind of deal. So, I do not see myself going to the Fight Quest gauntlet ever again. Got it.
Now, Bellator, tell us how you initially fell into the role with Bellator.
Well, what happened was I was working for M1. I got M1 Global called me when I was doing Fight Quest and said, "Hey, would you like to be our color analyst? We have a show next week in Amsterdam." And I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem. I got a passport. I'll go." And so I started doing M1, and a bunch of the people that were in M1 moved over to Bellator. Bellator is kind of, its market in the United States was kind of dwindling, and so a bunch of them went to Bellator as M1 kind of shut down, and they needed a color commentator, and a couple of people had worked with me and recommended me, and Bjorn Rebney called me in my house, and we did basically a phone interview, and I already knew all about all the fighters that were going to fight for him already. I had trained with them, or I knew them, or, everything. Yeah. So he said, "Man, that's great. You seem like a good fit." And I started with Bellator, and it was pretty much based on that. It was the word of mouth from the people I worked with in M1.
Now, with Bellator, how do you see them going right now? Like, what trajectory do you see them on?
It's tough right now. Right now, it's tough. I mean, everybody talks about the numbers being down and all these things. It's the problem they have is that, Spike was that young man demographic. It was, the man channel and all this stuff. And Paramount Network, from what I'm seeing with their programming, it's a little more, docuseries type stuff, mini-series, really expensive, high-end TV shows, almost like a premium cable kind of shows, like Waco and stuff like that. I don't know if and then putting Bellator in the middle of that, I don't know, if it's the same audience. I remember one time, personally, there was an example, it was Chandler versus Henderson, which was a big fight for Bellator, and it hyped a lot. Obviously, Vincent Henderson, former champion of the UFC, taking on Michael Chandler, and the lead-in to that show, that episode, that fight was Cops. 1.1 million people were watching Cops. 600,000, I think, stuck around for the Chandler-Henderson fight. And, so half the people turned the TV off. And, we were talking about a few days later, and they were, bummed out that the numbers were kind of disappointing. And I said, well, they were watching Cops. Yeah. They weren't watching sports. They weren't watching fighting. They weren't even watching any kind of sport, So the demographic that's watching your channel, or the kind of programming they're watching, it doesn't fit MMA. They just turn it off. I mean, they just switch channel, look for something else. So, it's a matter of finding that right demographic on the Paramount Network that isn't necessarily known for, young sports programming. It's really not what they're known for. Yeah.
Now, in terms of the talent pool at Bellator, let's say, the top cream of the crop at Bellator versus the top cream of the crop at the UFC, how would you see that playing out?
I think a lot of the guys at the very, very top of Bellator, the champions, the elite, the top three guys, are excellent fighters. They're really good. I think they're very competitive with the elite of the UFC. It's that the UFC, their number 10, number 15 guy is really damn good. Yeah. That's really, when people talk about like a champion versus champion thing, Bellator versus UFC or whatever, of course that would be competitive, but it's in certain weight classes. It's, do you have those 7, 8 guys, those 9 or 10 guys you need to really develop a weight class? That's what the UFC really, even when I was in Bellator, I thought this is not, a switch promotion. It's the depth in the UFC is so hard to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
To compete with UFC, it's, 10, 15 guys that are top caliber, that can really, really, really bang. And that's this real strength of the UFC, is that depth. It's really incredible.
Yeah, a guy like, for instance, Michael Chandler is a guy that I could see having huge success over in the UFC.
Of course, Eddie Alvarez came from Bellator and won a title in the UFC. Will Brooks didn't do that well. I mean, there have been ups and downs, but it's a matter of, give me the number 5 guy in Bellator versus a number 5 guy in the UFC, and it's not even close.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
that's really the issue that Bellator has to catch up in terms of their depth.
Yeah. Now, while you were at Bellator, what was the best fight that you saw in person?
Oh, best fight I saw in person has to be Eddie Alvarez, Michael Chandler 1.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you were going to go there.
Yeah, I mean, best fight I saw in Bellator, and not just how good the fight itself was, but the storyline of Michael Chandler, the young buck, the up-and-comer, coming out there and literally punching Eddie Alvarez in the mouth. We thought he was going to try and out-wrestle him. He comes with this totally different game plan. It was back and forth, and it was bloody, and it was for the title, and this new star kind of emerged. It was a great fight with a great story.
Yeah. Now, what prompted the transition from Bellator to the UFC, if you don't mind me asking?
No. I've been very public about this. It was, we love you. You're awesome. You're great. We want to keep you. We can't give you the contract terms that we thought we could give you in 2018 because 2017 was the end of my contract.
Yeah.
But they had an extra year that they could have picked up an option to keep me for an extra year. They essentially said they couldn't do that. They couldn't keep me under the contract they already had. They wanted a new one. Well, whenever you do that, that makes me a free agent.
Yeah.
Whenever you say, we're not going to. It's like I didn't get the franchise tag. They couldn't, I got their agency. And the UFC was very, very interested. And we sat down, the UFC, and they put out an offer, and Bellator put out the offer. And Bellator did everything they could, but, I thought it was time for me to move on, and that's what I did.
Yeah. Now, how is it going in the UFC so far? What's your experience been like overall?
Absolutely fantastic. And, I don't mean, hey, everything's great. I kind of expected a little more new guy treatment. I expected a little more all right, I do a couple shows and they see how it goes and I kind of have to work my way in and that they would be a little bit more standoffish with me. And it's been great. I mean...
That's awesome.
Yeah, everybody in the UFC, man, I'll walk up to producers and, my first day there and I was like, hey, I'm Jimmy. It's very nice to meet you. And the guy goes, yeah, we know who you are, man. I don't know that. I don't know if they watch Bellator or not, but they were all like, oh, yeah, we've been watching you for years, man. It's great to have you finally.
Well, yeah, I mean, because,
I didn't know that.
I don't want to kiss your ass, but I've always thought that you were one of the best, the cream of the crop color analysts there are, man. And that's why I was so happy that you agreed to be on this. Now, working, for instance, with Joe Rogan, I know you were on his podcast recently. What advice and how has Joe helped you?
Joe's helped me in the way he has publicized me, the way he talks about me, the way he talked to the UFC about me, the way, it was almost like he was just a behind-the-scenes supporter where, a lot of people in the UFC told me, they were, oh, yeah, Joe told me, dude, you got to check out this guy, Jimmy Smith, and you got to, if we could get him on the team, that'd be great. And so he was kind of a cheerleader to get me to the UFC, and his respect for me made everybody else respect me in a lot of ways.
Now,
a lot of fans, when they, saw Joe and I, when I heard Joe and I on the podcast and interact, and they went, man, this guy's really something great. It exposed me to a whole new level of fans.
Yeah.
And that's been really huge. When it comes to the actual calling the fights in the UFC, we've both been doing this a long time, so it wasn't like I had to change anything or do anything different in the UFC. You didn't pull me aside and go, okay, now that you're here, you have to do X, Y, and Z. It's been great, man. It's been no problem at all.
Now, this is kind of a broad question, but work with me here. Now, what do you think makes a good analyst?
You have to know, in my opinion, one of the things that makes a good analyst is you have to know your role.
Yeah.
As the color commentator. The worst thing to me is a play-by-play guy who thinks he's color, or a color guy who thinks he's play-by-play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't give their partner room to do what they need to do. They don't know when to back off and kind of let the action unfold.
Stepping on each other's feet.
Yeah. Like let each other speak, and also, a play-by-play guy who is telling you, breaking down the submission. That's the color guy's job.
Yeah.
That's not the play-by-play guy's job. It's the color guy's job.
Yeah.
So you're not giving the color guy anything to do. And then, a color guy going right hand, left hand, there's a kick, there's the... Play-by-play is supposed to do that. We're supposed to fill in the complicated stuff that everybody doesn't know. And so what it takes to be a good color commentator is knowing your particular role and knowing that it's about the fame, it's about the fighters, not you. And we're there to help out and do what we can, but not get in the way of the action. It's kind of knowing when to step back, I think, really makes a good commentator.
Okay, now the Till Wonderboy fight. I know you were on TV yesterday. Tell us a little bit more on your thoughts on how that played out. I was able to watch it kind of half-assed. My dog was going apeshit on me. But from what I'm hearing, a lot of people feel Wonderboy won the fight. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, when I saw it, I thought Wonderboy won the fight. Darren Till, of course, got the knockdown in the 5th round. They gave him the 5th round at least. I thought he won it. I understand people who think that Darren Till won the fight. I was disappointed a little bit. Wonderboy, I thought, was winning, but didn't really fight with that I have to take this away from him kind of mentality of like, hey, look, we're fighting in Liverpool. I really got to go after him when I need to. Remember the last 10 seconds of the 5th round, they were kind of staring at each other.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that 10 seconds, you better be going ape shit trying to get this fight. And I could have used a little bit more of that from Wonderboy. I did think he won the fight. I thought he kind of outlanded him in the first 4 rounds. But he let Darren Till kind of take the center and be the aggressor, and didn't take that away from him enough. So a lot of people don't understand. Part of my job is when there's a decision like that is explain what I think. I think Wonderboy Thompson won at least 3 of the first 4 rounds, and I thought he counter-struck better. I thought he landed a little sharper. I didn't think Darren Till was landing a lot of his big punches, but then I have to explain what I think the judges probably saw. And what the judges saw was Darren Till moving forward, kind of being the aggressor. When he would throw big punches, even if they didn't land, the crowd went nuts. They don't have replay. They don't have slow motion. They're watching in real time, so they don't necessarily see that a punch did or didn't land. So the judges saw that Darren Till was the aggressor and rewarded him a lot for it. So those are the 2 sides of the coin. Did I think Wonderboy won? Yes, I thought he did. But I like I said, the going back to the gym thing for Wonderboy has to be turn it on in those last minute, 30 seconds, try and ice the rounds.
And that's kind of what he ran into with the Woodley. It's kind of that same thing happening all over again, not being able to pull the trigger and let go when he needs to.
Well, he's a counterpuncher, and the problem is that when the other guy doesn't throw enough or doesn't do anything stupid or reckless and give him that inside opportunity, he has to open the door himself. And, that's something he has to add to his game. The problem is that with this loss, it's a tough climb back. There's so much activity at 170 and so much new blood. He's already had 2 title shots. So it's going to be tough for him to get back into that title contention.
Yeah. Now, with the judging on this fight, do you believe in the argument of the home field advantage when it comes to judging when the fight's on your turf?
Yeah, I do, because judges are human beings, and they're influenced by the people around them. And also, the idea, like I said, when every time Darren Till threw anything, the crowd just exploded. They went absolutely nuts. If you're watching that in real time, and you don't know if a punch landed or not, and everybody goes crazy, a lot of times you assume it did. So I don't think it's a matter of intentional bias. I think there's so many unconscious things that happen when you're fighting in somebody else's backyard that it's certainly a factor. And we've seen it a million times too.
Yeah. Now, just a couple more questions here. UFC on ESPN. How big is this? How do you see this affecting MMA?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously huge because UFC has. ESPN has so many platforms, and they're such a recognizable name. And, they're so known as the worldwide home of sports. So to go there it is a big deal. How it affects everybody, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm in kind of the same boat as everybody else. I just started here, so 6 months. So how it's going to affect things, I'm not sure. But everybody at Fox has been outstanding. Obviously, I've worked on the desk quite a bit, and everybody at Fox Sports is absolutely incredible to work with. They've been great. So we'll just have to see how everything goes at ESPN. But I'm looking forward to it. Now,
one thing here. Now, what fighter excites you the most, and what is one quality that every great fighter has? That's a loaded one. Drop the hammer.
I like that. It's a slew of questions. Right now, let's say the last 6 months since I've joined the UFC, I think Kevin Lee's performance against Barboza was one of those eye-opening. Like a lot, plenty of people thought he'd win, But to dominate like that, just that all-around game with the striking, the takedown, the ground and pound submission game, I think he's really reaching a peak right now in a division that is full of opportunities because there's so much chaos right now at 155 that's a great opportunity for him. So Kevin Lee, I've seen the last 6 months, is definitely a fighter to keep an eye on. The fighters that are truly great, most of the time, have a lot of, they really want to be in there. It's a job. They're professionals, but it's that joy and that willingness to get in there and really make it dirty and attack, not wanting to take a backward step. A lot of times, even the technical fighters like, a GSP who's known for his ability to kind of avoid a brawl, he's a gamer, man. That guy's competitive. He wants to win. He's hungry. And in his prime, it was a matter of nobody's going to make me take a backward step. And I think that makes a lot of great fighters. Anderson Silva, one of the greatest technicians ever. Dude, when he fought Forrest and he's waving him in and the crowd's into it, he had a real passion for what he was doing. That makes a great fighter to me.
Yeah. Now, last question here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Where do I see myself in 5 years? That's an excellent question. I love doing what I'm doing. Being in the UFC, calling fights, and, people always talk about, what are your other goals? And hey, man, I just want to grow with the sport. Yeah. That's what I really want. So it's a matter of everything in terms of showing them I can, host desk shows. I can do commentary. I can host talk shows about MMA. I can do everything when it comes to broadcasting mixed martial arts. So the more things I add to my resume, the happier I'm going to be. So it's about still being in the UFC, in MMA in 5 years, and still being at the top of my game. That's where I want to be. Right
on. Here, Jimmy, why don't you stay on the line real quick so I can thank you off the line here. But, hey, guys, you got any questions, comments, feel free to throw them in the comment box. Please hit like and subscribe. We got some more great interviews coming up, and we'll see you soon.